Was there a point which you can remember, which was kind of a secondary, profound experience, something which was so impactful on you that it took you to another point of understanding who Shamashi was, or recognition, if you like? Was there some, apart from the initial, process of self-realization? I don't know who wants to start. Did anybody have, it's kind of almost like this. Oh, so she's really God. One of these kind of moments. Is that anything that you had later on, when you were either with her or she was doing something for you, or something occurred to you? It could have been an experience you had.
Okay, great. We used to get invited to Shri Mataji's flat in Ashley Gardens, and we used to go there quite often. And one morning, somehow I arrived first, and I came up, and I was alone with Mother. Mother came in, and it was sun, and she really looked like divine. She looked incredible. I said, "Do you want some breakfast?" I said, "Well, no, Mother." I said, "I'll have some breakfast." So Gajendra, cook, brought some halva, Indian halva, and she said, "Oh, sit down." So she saw me to sit next to her. I didn't sit on the floor. So we had breakfast, and I tell you, I really felt that she was really God. It was quite incredible to have her attention on you. Personally, I was alone with Mother. It was quite amazing. Yeah.
Well, I think my first probably profound experience after that was going to my first puja, which was the 2nd of December 1979, which was the Guru Puja. Not only had I been asked to put kumkum all over Mother's feet, which was amazing itself, Mother gave this talk where she declared who she was. I am the one who has come again and again to give meaning to itself. And I just couldn't believe there were just so few of us, these few people in the whole world, and how lucky that I was there, and these few people when Mother declared who she was, and she said, "This is for Sahaja Yogis' ears only." And
yes, she did.
She did, and that was.
It was so historic. You felt.
We were there.
Yeah.
Because
you knew, like you'd known all this time who Mother was.
Yeah.
You'd known all this time who Mother was, and we probably had. It was just accepted. Everybody knew who Mother was, but this was the first time she actually said it.
Declared.
And you felt, wow, this is historic.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Was so
and everything changed, like something fundamentally deep, I felt, changed at that point.
Yeah.
It was like, although she said, I remember, she said, "Don't tell anyone else," you felt, we're moving out now,
Yeah. Myself and Douglas, we were transcribing that talk in the Hill Ashram, and we got so high just transcribing that talk, listen to and typing it out. It was incredible.
She is the only incarnation, isn't she, that's ever declared who she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in this little 2 up, 2 down terraced house, Mother would go upstairs and sleep, and all the yoginis could sit around her. And she after that as well.
And sleep
And sleep.
because we were so
Sleep in the
few.
same
When we would travel with Shri Mataji, we would all travel together, and we always stayed. She so generously stayed in people's houses, and often she stayed at Pam's, and the ladies would all be invited in to sleep on the floor in sleeping bags in Mother's room. And so it was very great blessing being a lady in this lifetime.
Boys as well, in Doris Hill, we used to sleep, boys and girls, we used to bring our sleeping bags and sleep around Mother.
But I guess we should say that it sounds a little odd sleeping with Shri Mataji, but we soon learned, and she showed us that actually this was her way of working out the left side.
Yeah.
And we would go to Dollis Hill every Sunday. She would come and sit, and we would sit around, and she would discuss everybody's problems or what was happening outside in the world. And then she would literally make us go to sleep. She would fall asleep, and we would all fall asleep. And then she said, and then when we'd wake up, she'd go, better now. Because she would go into the subconscious and
she would
work out the left
let
side.
us rub her feet.
Yeah, but quite
ages.
often that she wouldn't sleep much. Sometimes sleep much at Dollis Hill because she'd be working on somebody, you know, at the time. You know, people would be pressing her, she'd be pressing them, and then the rest of us tried to get a little bit of sleep. But she didn't sleep much sometimes.
And then there would be this funny Maya of, I remember one night being invited to sleep in her room with Hester, and I remember sort of laying down to go to sleep, and then Hester was sitting still meditating, and I felt, oh, maybe I shouldn't sleep, so I sort of sat up too. And Shri Mataji was literally in a deep sleep, but every so often I noticed myself, thoughts would come in my mind, and she would cough, and like I would kind of get more alert and go, oh, you know, not that thought, sort of thing. And then after some time, she just sort of said, go to sleep now, Hester. You know, like from this deep, deep sleep she was in. And then Hester lay down and went to sleep, and then I felt, oh, it's okay too. And so wherever she was, whatever state she was in, she knew everything about every person who was there, everything that was going on. It was such a, I mean, you just could not help but know who Shri Mataji was, because all the time she was constantly surprising us with details of things that, how could she know that? How could she know that about me? I never said anything. And it just, little things, it was just like she was constantly, you know, it said there was a question, what miracles do you remember? I mean, there were so many little things that you would count as miracles that, how could this happen? It was hard to pick out, you know, big ones.
Yeah, we went by train once to Birmingham, I think. It was just Shri Mataji and a few yogis. And I was sitting opposite her in the carriage, and she said, Mia, you've done karate, haven't you? I said, yes, mother. I said, how does she know that? She must be God, she knows that. So it's quite incredible to have somebody like that in front of you, you know. Something else, yeah.
So I mean, we hear on the old audio tapes, you know, these fantastic tapes of Shri, you know, chopping in the kitchen and chatting, and it's a completely, it's something that is so otherworldly to us who came later. This relationship you had, this kind of day-to-day experience of the goddess, if you like, in the location. I think people would really like to know what was that like. I mean, obviously in one way it was incredibly just amazing, but it must have been also had its intense sides as well. You know, the fact that you were, there must have been periods where it was just so mind-numbing to, you know, go shopping or to have a meal. I mean, what can you remember some recollections?
Yeah, after Caxton Hall, we used to go to. After Caxton Hall, we usually used to go to this Italian restaurant, Spaghetti House.
Yes.
And most of us have been there. And very often Shri Mataji was there with us. And many times she invited us to her flat as well.
Yeah.
There was nobody there. And that was quite amazing as well. Just having a meal, or she would cook for us.
Patricia?
Yes, there was one incident at the Spaghetti House. I remember that Shri Mataji just went into the ladies just before coming to eat, and I was waiting outside for her, and then she came out and she'd just given the talk, and she said to me, "What do you think of that talk? Wasn't it wonderful?" Completely detached.
Yeah, amazing.
And another point on Shri Mataji knew all about us, that when I came to see her the first time at somebody's house, she said, "Have you been to any gurus?" And actually I didn't really know what a guru was, although I'd done an awful lot of terrible seeking. And she looked, I said, "No," and she said, Krishnamurti. And somebody had read that to me every day for about 2 years. And she knew.
Yeah. Just on that, knowing everything, I went up to London I was a big Miles Davis fan, the jazz trumpeter, and he had come out of retirement. He was a very mixed up, caught up person, but a brilliant artist. And he'd come out of retirement. I really wanted to see him before, you know, the end. And this was, I can't remember when this was, but Ruth, my wife, said to me, "You must call in on Shri Mataji when you go up to London," because she said, "You know, if you're in London, come and see me, And I thought, I don't really want to do that. But it was like a challenge throwing down, you know. So I very kind of shyly knocked on the door. This was in Brompton Square, her house there. And she said, come in, you know, and she talked about how she was setting up a brains trust and I should be on it and so on. And then somebody said, are you ready for the meeting tonight? I had no idea that she was actually giving a public programme tonight. And I said, oh my God, I was going to see this musician. You know, because I was in two minds. I mean, this is God. But I did want to see Miles Davis. She said, no, you must go, give him his realisation. I tried to imagine myself giving him, but I worked very hard during that concert. But, you know, it was so nice. She said, he's an old man, he hasn't got much longer to live, he must get his realisation, you know. And I thought, how does she know about Miles Davis? Because this is not her kind of music. But she knew everything. But it was so kind, the way she said, she's, you know, made the decision for me, and that by going to that concert I would be doing something worthwhile. I felt, I mean, this question of, you know, mother being divine and yet an everyday human personality at the same time, it's something very hard to describe, but because you're living in the present when you're with mother, it all flows very naturally. I felt, from the moment I saw her, one of the main things I felt was awe, and I always felt this awe for mother, as I'm sure everyone has. But it was always there with me, and I didn't have a mother. I don't remember my own mother. So this idea of what a mother is was rather alien to me, and it, you know, it's took a long time to sort of get a little bit closer to understanding that this is your mother. You know, it's all right. It's your mother. Once, when she came to Bristol to stay with us for 2 or 3 days, I remember greeting her at the door. You do arty, and she said, "How are you?" And I said, "I'm a bit nervous, mother." She said, "Don't be nervous." You know, it was just dispelling it like that. And so much happened in, you know, just in an hour with Shri Mataji. So much happens. Important things, really serious spiritual things, light things which make everybody laugh. You know, and it's just, you are really living then. You know, it's just a very beautiful and deepening experience. So what can I say? I mean, we went looking, shopping that day, and she was looking for pop socks, you know. I mean, it's so kind of mundane. And she wanted a tie for CCP. And Bristol, as she had said, is the Vishuddhi of England. And, you know, she was touching, we went to this big department store, she was touching every tie in the shop, though she didn't actually buy one. But it was like working on the Vishuddhi, and lots of other things she did when she was in Bristol were clearly, symbolically, but I think without any thought about it, you know, just working on the collective Vishuddhi.